Welcome back. Today I'm going to go ahead and talk a little bit about conditions. So no big deal. We have already done the conditional statements before. We have seen how they function in examples plenty of times before, but there are a few cases which I have not shown you up to this point of time. So let's go ahead and take a look at a few examples. Not going to burden you too much. Let's define a variable called num, and let's say that variable's value, let's assign a value to that variable of 1. Then we shall use an if statement, and within the if statement we shall say num greater than a zero. Let's close it. Then, and now within the then portion, we can go ahead and place another loop. So if it is greater than 0, let's go ahead and check if it is lesser than 5. And then we can create another one. So like this. So if if num is greater than 0 and it is lesser than 5, we would like to know if it is greater than 3. And then we can go ahead and type in echo greater than 0, lesser than 5, and my bad here, dash greater than, my apologies, lesser than 5 and greater than 3, so that we know where we are. That was long. After this, we can go ahead and finish these statements. You see how we finish them? We need to put F5 for each one of these. And then we can use elif num is I don't know, equal to. So equal to 0, echo out equal to 0, else echo out I have no idea. That was a long one. There we go. So now you can see how these things can be nested practically infinitely. You can nest them as much as you want, as long as you just follow the form and the procedures given. So if you start an if statement, you need to finish it with fi. So you see finish, finish, and at the end we have a finish again. So no big deal. We can do it rather fast, no big deal. And in general, you will need to place a good amount of these statements. I mean, you will need them of that. I assure you, there's no going around these sort of coding practices. You need to test out one condition, and then if that condition is true, you need to test out another one and another one, etc. It keeps on iterating on end. It can be quite complex at times. Now let's go ahead and take a look at some of the. I mean, you have these things called file test operators, and let's go ahead and take a look at some of them, how they function, how they work, what they're good for, what they're meant for, etc. So first off, we can go ahead and type in var, and within var we can actually place a path to some sort of a file. So variables can store paths. It doesn't matter that it's longer. So we type in home and slash chronic slash wood.txt. This one should be here. And do you remember the last tutorial where I asked you to do something on your own to check individual existence of files? Well, this can be a part of the solution. This can be one way in which such a problem can be solved. If you go ahead and type in if, and then you type in double brackets, you should generally use these in order to avoid some sort of confusion in terms of logic later on. So I advise you to use the double ones if you can. If not, oh well. -E, then we shall use var, and we shall close it back up again. And -E will actually test is a file test operator that checks if the file exists at all. Then echo file exists, else echo file does not exist. How I have managed to spell this so badly is beyond me. File exists. There we go. And remember, we need to close here, and we need to close this statement. So this entire script, it simply checks whether a file exists or not. So let's go ahead and run the script. I know that I didn't run the last one, but I don't think there was a purpose. You've seen a lot of these if and then statements. I just want to show you how you can nest them, pretty much the same thing, but we're going to run this one. And there you go. It states that the file does indeed exist, because we do have a file, wood.txt. As you can see, it says wood.txt. It does indeed exist. And if we type in pwd, that command will tell us where we currently are. What is our working directory? In fact, it stands for print working directory, and that is exactly what it does. Home chronic, and then slash wood would be the location of this particular test file. And this you can use, this piece of code you can use to actually check for the existence of individual files in combination with nested loops in the previous tutorial in order to complete the task that I've set for you there, if you so choose and if you so wish. Anyway, the next construct that will be used in conditional statements, basically double parentheses. Let's go ahead. Let's go ahead and take a look at them and see how they actually function and work. Something like this. So double parentheses here, double parentheses here. Let's have a look. So if we see, this construct returns exit status, and by this construct I mean this and this. This is practically the construct to which I am referring, the parentheses. So it will return the exit status after evaluating some sort of an arithmetic expression. If the result of the arithmetic expression is a 0, then the exit status is 1 or false. If the result of the arithmetic expression is some non-zero value, then the exit status is 0 or true. So once again, if you have a result within these parentheses, a result of some sort of an arithmetic expression, so if the result is 0, then the exit status is 1 or false, because 0 stands for false, 1 stands for true, basically, in essence, in general. But you see, it can be confusing. I just said 0 and then I said that the exit status is 1. Well, if the result is 0, then the exit status will be 1 or false, so 1 false. And if the result of the arithmetic expression is some non-zero value, then the exit status will be 0 or true. let's have a look at this. I know it can be a little bit confusing. Trust me, I have banged my head over this when I was learning it, so I do understand you to a good extent. If we say that 2 is greater than 1, so is 2 greater than 1? Yes, it's greater than 1. Echo exit status is, and let's go ahead and how do we get the exit status? Well, $, question mark. There we go. Let's run it. Exit status. Status. There we go. So let's run the script one more time. So exit status is 0, meaning that this expression is true because 2 is greater than 1. Is it? Just ask yourselves, is it greater than 1? Therefore, the exit status is 0. That's fine. But if it's not 2 greater than 1, if it's the other way around, that 2 is less, that 2 is, I clicked on it, there we go. That 2 is lesser than 1, if we put it in like this, the code will still run without any problems, but it will say that the exit status is 1. Remember, we get the exit status from the last function, from the last command you called. And obviously, this is the last one. Echo is just printing it out. Of course, if the echo is wrong, then you're going to get an error as well if you do something wrong in the echo command. Anyway, you can also do this. 2 minus 2. And if you run it, it's going to say exit status is 0. Oops, it's not 2 minus 2, it's 2 minus 1. So 2 minus 2. And it says exit status is 1. What else can we do? We can actually use addition as well. So addition. There we go. And says exit status is 0. So 2 plus 2 is 4. It's a non-zero value. Then the exit is 0, meaning true. But if it's like 0, then the exit code is 1. So if it's false. Hope you got that. In general, you're evaluating this statement here. Is it true or is it false? It's easy enough to evaluate it with, let's say, a 2 is greater than 1. That is obviously true. Or 2 lesser than 1. That is obviously false. But 2 minus 2 is 0. And the exit status will be 1, meaning false. And 2 plus 2 is 4, which is greater than 0 and non-zero, meaning that not greater. Don't need to look at it like that. Just 2 plus 2 is 4, therefore the exit status is 0. The expression is true. That is how these arithmetic expressions are evaluated in terms of true and false, as they can be posed as conditions. Anyway, we could have easily replaced these with variables and then just referenced them here without any problems of whatsoever. Now, working with files requires the use of file test operators in conditional statements. I've just mentioned one, -e. It will return true if the file exists. You have a few more. Let's just have a look at them. I will have some examples for you down below. But you have -f, which basically returns true if file is a regular file, not a directory or a device file. So you can check what sort of a file something is. -s, it returns true if file is not zero size. So, if there is something in it. Then we have -r, which will return true if the user is running the test if the user running the test has the permission to read the file. So it will return true if the user has the permission to read the file. If it can be read, in essence. If you can read it, it will return true. If you cannot read it, it will return false. -x is the next one. Some of them we've already mentioned before and we've actually used them. -x, it will return true if the user that is running the test has the permission to execute the file. And we of course have -w. It will return true if the user that is running the test has the permission to write to the file. And of course we have the last one that I'm going to mention here, which is the exclamation mark. It doesn't require a dash, just an exclamation mark. It basically just reverses the result of a file test operator. So just puts it in reverse. That's all that there is to it. Now we have these exit status codes. We have E underline, or just do this one first, number. Actually, we use this one, number of args equals 2. That's just a variable, no big deal. That's the number of arguments needed. And down below we can type in E underline no args equals 65. E underline bad args equals 85. E underline unreadable equals 86. E underline no file equals 87. And E underline size shall equal 89. So the first one means that the exit status if no arguments are given. Second one is exit status if incorrect number of arguments is passed. Most of them you can imply from the name what they mean. And the third one is the exit status if basically you're unable to read the file. Whoever is executing the script is unable to read the file. The fourth one, if the file does not exist. And the fifth one is the status if file is not a regular file. The last one is just status if file is 0 in size. So some of them you can conclude, but some of them like bad args and size, it's kind of difficult to just conclude from the name. You sort of had an idea of what it is, but you know you cannot just come around and conclude it. Maybe you can, I don't know. If you can, that's great for you. Anyway, running short on time as usual, so I will just go ahead and continue in the follow-up tutorial.